These unforgettable photos will blow your mind. From the depths of history to the present decade, we've put together 48 rare and extraordinary photos that you won't forget. Let's get started. This photo shows what Albert Einstein's desk looked like the day he died. He passed away in Princeton, New Jersey, USA, on April 18, 1955, at the age of 76. I bet you've never seen these rocks without the presidential heads carved into them. This is Mount Rushmore before the presidents began to make their appearances in 1927. Queen Elizabeth II at 18. 7 years later, she would become Queen of all England and its colonies at the young age of 25. Her reign would last 70 years, the longest in British monarchical history. The sinking of the RMS Titanic in 1912 devastated the entire world. This right here is what one of the Titanic's lifeboats looked like just before the passengers were rescued. Before beauty pageants became bathing suit competitions, the modern Miss America pageant in 1921 was one of the most well-known. 3 years later, Ruth Malcolmson, representing Philadelphia, won the 1924 Miss America pageant. Back in 1917, this is what a dollar bill looked like. The first dollar bill was in 1862 by the United States government as a legal tender note. Vincent van Gogh only sold one painting in his entire life for 400 francs. Despite his struggles and lack of commercial success, Van Gogh continued to paint, producing over 900 works of art during his lifetime. This right here is his painting palette. Back in 1960, this was what first class on a plane looked like. If we're being honest, it looks pretty comfortable. Speaking of planes, this right here, wicker chairs and all, is what the interior of a plane looked like in 1925. Interestingly, this photo is the first time an in-flight film was shown on a flight. This is Robert Wadlow, the tallest man who ever lived. Also known as the Giant of Illinois, he stood at an incredible 8 feet 11.1 inches. His exceptional height was due to a condition called pituitary gigantism. He passed away in 1940 at the young age of 22. And this is the violin Wallace Hartley, band leader on the Titanic, played as the ship sank. Hartley's bravery and selflessness during the Titanic's tragic sinking have become legendary. The band's final performance included the famous hymn, "Nearer, My God, to Thee." This photo shows members of Vietnam Veterans Against the War protesting against war in 1970. Their banner says, "We won't fight another rich man's war." This photo is of Louis Armstrong, an American trumpeter and one of the most influential artists in jazz history. While on tour in Nice, France in 1961, he draws a trumpet and signs an autograph on the side of a young man's head. Valentine's Day, 1945, a little French girl kisses an American soldier. At the time, the Second World War was still ravaging the world, but it was reaching its final stages. This is a photo of Anatoly Golimbievsky, a heavily decorated Soviet veteran who sadly lost both his legs in the Second World War. Here, he acknowledges the salute of 4 young sailors from the Nakhimov Navy School on V-Day in Leningrad in 1989. The legendary rock band Kiss, sporting their iconic makeup in Central Park, in 1974. The band is well known for their explosive live shows and hits like Rock and Roll All Night and Shout It Out Loud. The Statue of Liberty was gifted by France to the United States to commemorate the 100th anniversary of American independence. Designed by French sculptor Frédéric Auguste Bartholdi, this photo shows it towering over Paris before being disassembled and shipped to New York. Abraham Lincoln, the 16th President of the United States, died on April 15, 1865, after being shot by actor John Wilkes Booth. This photo from his funeral captures a young Teddy Roosevelt in the second-story window. Teddy would go on to become the 26th President of the United States. Mary Ann Bevan was a widow who was given the title of World's Ugliest Woman in 1920. Following her husband's death, Mary was diagnosed with a rare disease, and she later joined the circus sideshows to support her several children. Famous for its iconic lean, the Leaning Tower of Pisa, built in 1173, is a 55-meter-tall Italian bell tower. Its unintended tilt is caused by soft ground and poor foundation design. This photo shows what the inside of the tower looks like. Nope, it isn't cheese. This is the first photo of the moon ever taken. It was captured in 1840 by Louis Daguerre's assistant, J.W. Draper, using the daguerreotype process. For centuries, the term computer referred to a person, often a woman, who performed complex calculations by hand. This is a photo of human computers, the unsung heroes of numerous scientific advancements. Did you know in the early 1900s, women could enter pretty ankle competitions? That's right, contestants would usually have to stand behind a curtain with their legs propped out for judgment. The winners would usually receive free stockings and fame, and the crown of the prettiest ankle. In this photo, a policeman judges an ankle competition at Hounslow, London. This is a photo of an Italian woman, Franca Viola. In 1966, she defied the Italian tradition by refusing to marry the man who had intimately assaulted her. Her decision sparked widespread controversy and even death threats, but her family supported her, and the case eventually led to a trial where the assaulter was convicted. Ever wondered what the iceberg that sank the Titanic looked like? Here's a picture of it after the collision. This is a photo of Ham, the trailblazing chimpanzee who became the first ape in space. Launched to test cognitive function, rocket safety, and capsule reliability. Ham's mission was successful, and he returned unharmed as a hero. Annette Kellerman was a world-class swimmer who broke many records. 1907, she was arrested for indecency after she wore a bathing suit like this one to Revere Beach in Massachusetts. If only these guys could see what we wear to the beach these days. These outfits are the real-life suits doctors would wear to treat plague patients in the 1600s. Looks like something out of a horror movie. These photos show what the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C. looked like in 1907 and what it looks like 100 years later. The Times Square building, also known as One Times Square, was created as the headquarters for the New York Times newspaper in 1904. These before and after photos show the Times building, the center of New York's Times Square, under construction in 1903 and what it looks like 100 years later. Before the invention of alarm clocks, people would hire workers known as knocker-ups to go around in the early hours of the morning and bang on their windows to wake them up. This photo shows a knocker-up at work. This is a photo of Margaret Gorman, the woman who won the very first Miss America competition in 1921. She was from Washington, D.C. To intensify pressure on Japan to surrender, the U.S. bombed Nagasaki on August 9, 1945, 3 days after Hiroshima, ending World War II. This photo shows what the nuclear bombing of Nagasaki, Japan, looked like from the ground. This is a stunning photo of a young and dazzling Brigitte Bardot. She is a French actress, singer, and model, known for her iconic portrayal of confident, free-spirited, and hedonistic characters, embodying sexual liberation and empowerment. Today, after 90 years, Brigitte lives in Saint-Tropez, France. This photo shows U.S. President Ronald Reagan meeting with Afghan Mujahideen leaders in 1983. This was the result of the Soviet Union's invasion of Afghanistan during the Afghan War in December 1979. 1943, in Darwin, Australia, Captain R.N. Skipper daydreams of a date during his afternoon siesta amidst a mundane routine. Here's the scene of bomb damage in Manchester during the Second World War. In this photo, an alleged Soviet spy laughs at a Finnish soldier as he awaits execution in November 1942. An emotional scene unfolds at Detroit's Central Station as three fathers newly inducted into the military, departing for training at Fort Custer, bid a heartfelt goodbye to their children. Here's this kid's reaction to meeting Andre the Giant in the 1970s. This photo shows three young boys sharing a smile while sitting in a wagon on a Pittsburgh neighborhood street in the 1920s or 30s. Here's what a tricycle from 1936 looked like. This is a photo of American women welders during the Second World War. During the war, these women worked in shipyards and factories, building ships, planes, and tanks. Here's a 1932 photo of a female firefighting team on a converted motorcycle in London. In this photo from 1925, an officer stops traffic to make way for a cat carrying a kitten across the street. Back in 1960, David Latimer planted a spiderwort sprout inside a huge glass bottle. He screwed it shut after adding a quarterling of water. Years later, this is the result. Here's a photo of Charlie Chaplin meeting Helen Keller back in 1919. It's a wonder what they talked about. This is a photo of Dina Sanichar, the real-life boy who was raised by feral wolves. Abandoned in the Indian jungle, he was later discovered and attempted to be reintegrated. However, he struggled to adapt and never acquired language skills. Which one of these photos struck you the most? Tell us in the comments. Also, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel so you're notified whenever we upload a new video.